And welcome back to another Space Engineers showcase video. In today's video we're looking at another small land vehicle, and this one has some very interesting driving mechanics. So this one is called the ATSR-4 SAVANNA, which is this thing right here. It turns very interesting because it's got a set of subwheels which bend around quite a lot. I'll show you that. In fact, I shall show you that right now because it's a very interesting thing. So if I have the parking brakes turned on and attempt to turn, we bend around quite a lot. So it can be quite awkward when turning at high speeds, but it's a very fancy thing which allows you to go over some bumps without risking it flipping over. But yeah, so if I just take a quick look around the outside and then we'll get in and drive it around. So we come around to the very front. Then I'll press F10 and find it in the spawn menu, so the ATSR, there it is. This vehicle is 461 small blocks. It uses the decorative block DLC pack for the industrial cockpit that you see in front of you. We've got some great use of the armor skins as well. We can see the battered armor skin, we can see the mossy armor skin, and it does look great. So at the very front, like I said, we've got ourselves an industrial cockpit to drive this thing along. It's been surrounded by some battered grey armoured blocks, some battered orange armoured blocks, some more lighter grey armoured blocks, and then below here we've got some black mossy armoured blocks just below it. Around the side here we can see where the blockwork goes along, where we get to our first main wheel part. We've got a smaller wheel right here which is going to help us bend around by tilting these larger wheels right here when we turn. So our large wheels, I will just go like this, then bend around, and then that one like that will then bend down like that. Kind of hard to explain, but I think you get the idea. As we move along to the side we can see our programmable block, which is going to be for our subgrid controls. We've got a conveyor there, we've got gyroscopes, we've got batteries, we even got a hydrogen engine which is very slowly filling up because I am in survival mode and I've only just put some ice into this fresh vehicle after crashing a few of these. Moving along the side there we can see all the conveyors coming across past that little ore detector to the back here where we've got some cargo containers and a connector to connect up to your base, which has come up and above. There are the conveyors. We then have a beacon on the opposite side. On the very top here we just see some more blocks. We've got a parachute hatch and then some more connectors. Coming down and underneath this vehicle, right down here we can see the bottom of our batteries, which are exposed but nowhere near in danger when driving this thing, considering how high off the ground we actually are. And this is it coming around back. As for the wheels themselves, they're being quite loosely attached. So these are the large wheels on some 1x1 slope blocks, which then come all the way up to the main body like that. And then on this side, we can see our hydrogen engine right there. We've got another gyroscope and a survival kit to respawn on. And that about covers the outside. It's nice and simple, isn't it? But it's a very complicated vehicle to try and achieve that. And I would never imagine doing something like this because, knowing me, it would just straight up explode. But anyway, what do we get on our hotbar? Well, number 1 and number 2 is for opening and closing our parachute. 3 and 4 are for changing the power of the wheel, so depending on what surface you're on, or depending on how you feel about the vehicle when you're driving it, you can adjust that manually. And then number 5 and number 6 are for our small wheels there, which are just to adjust them as well. Tab number 2, 3 and 4 have nothing else on them, so it is time to drive this thing around, and away we go. So just turning there, we have to be quite careful with this. It does seem to have a little bit of a tendency to flip unexplainably. That might be because I'm trying to use the gyroscope to turn, as well as turning this vehicle manually. Yes, we could just turn around like this, it's quite neat. Then driving straight, we are very bobbly and wobbly. We can look down there, so we got the raise and lower the vehicle. And raise and lower those other things, or at least adjust the power. There are some trees. Let me just put the power brakes on. There we go. Right, so if I just go and lower this down a little bit, let's go and drop ourselves all the way down. That seems a little bit dangerous, doesn't it? I'm sure it'll be fine. Now we can be a lowrider, and it does seem to behave a lot more smoother. But we do kind of lose quite a lot of control and have to rely on our gyroscopes to turn while in this position. If I just raise myself all the way back up, like so, let's go like this, and that should be fine. So driving it around, it's a very, very interesting thing. I keep getting distracted because I'm looking at how this is bending and turning when you try and turn left and right. Yes, we just keep going along like this. I'll see if I can find some bumpy parts. It's a very flat area, this. Very flat area. Trust me to always find the worst areas when I don't want a flat area, and a flat area when I want a rampy area. But we could just keep driving this around. It's nice and fast. Stopping is a little bit of a problem, which is, I think, one of the first times I've ever seen this type of scenario in Space Engineers. I'm just going to drop myself down a little bit to try and regain a little bit of control, maybe even adjust the wheel power a bit. So we should be able to turn like that and keep on driving. It is a lovely vehicle to drive around, just having those extended legs, like proper suspension really. Oh, here we go. And, oh, I did a hard landing there, but we can still go on these two wheels. I think it's because I lowered the vehicle a bit much, but we can still go, I think. Yeah, we're totally fine. See, we're totally fine. It didn't blow up, it was just your imagination. And I don't think there's any ramps at all anywhere around here. So I'll have to leave it here. So it's a very interesting vehicle if you wish to download and play around with it yourself. And I do highly recommend checking it out just to see how this thing is working and how it controls. So one last thing before I go, because I think it's a very useful thing to have that I did miss out. If you come over to the pivot adjustments and tick this little block right here, the share inertia tensor, it makes it much more easier to control, but you do lose a lot of your suspension functionality, so going over bumpy terrain will no longer be as fun. And of course, a little tip after driving this around a fair bit, if you're going to land this after a jump, land on the back wheels. So yes, like I said, it will be in the description below if you wish to download and play around with this yourself. I recommend you do, and I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.